We all know Turki Alalshikh has been doing amazing things in the sport of boxing, getting us the fights that we've been looking for years. But the only knock has been that they've been over in Riyadh. It's been very difficult to go and see those fights. Well, guess what? He's coming to the States August 3rd in a blockbuster card.
So blockbuster, in fact, that the majority of these fights could probably be main events on their own show. Yet we'll have them all on one show, August the 3rd.
You know we love movies over here. And now we got a great sequel to Who's Coming to America. And it's not Eddie Murphy. It's the face and now the body of boxing. His Excellency, Turki Alalshikh.
All that and more when we get going on Deep Waters right now. Welcome into Deep Waters. We have a great show for you, gentlemen. Hold up. We're going to bring you in as soon as we work on the X's and O's of that great main event. But before then, we have a very special guest. He is CEO of ProBox TV. That's right, Gary Jonas, to discuss not just the fight itself, but the impact of the money coming into the United States. We know about it. His Excellency, Turki Alalshikh, a card August 3rd, Terence Crawford, Ismail Madrimov. What does this mean for boxing? This influx of money, this new promotion, all in all, is it a good thing?
Yeah, I think it's a great thing. Anytime someone's injecting more money into a sport or any business, it's usually going to do something very good. You know, we were all concerned when he was over there in Saudi working with the British promoters and putting on the fights over there. How's that going to work for boxing here? Is he going to take all the best fighters over there? What are we watching it at? You know, we're not watching it at Saturday night anymore in the traditional venues and the energy that comes from the American audience versus the Saudi audience. So there was some concern. But now that he's come over here and he's made it clear that he wants to do the biggest fights here too, wow, well, we can't go wrong. The fans are going to win. Everyone in the business wins, right? Rising tides lift all boats. You know, putting that kind of money into the sport can't hurt. And what I find really interesting, Jimmy, is that he's putting all the promoters together, right? And that's kind of unusual and humorous for some of us to watch because, as we know, promoters have been traditionally battling with each other. So we're going to have to see how that works. But right now, he's kind of forcing everyone together, and he's using the money to do it.
Another side of it is, as you mentioned, these promoters that have dominated the business for the last decade, or even more in a lot of cases, are now being forced to kind of work together to put some risk back into the sport. Do you think that's a good effect for the fans?
I think it's a great effect for the fans. I mean, you know, there is an element of why the promoters weren't working with each other. You had HBO and Showtime, a couple of movie networks that had limited distribution and limited budget for boxing. ESPN always had boxing at the back of the bus. It was a filler content. You know, you've got this guy coming in, and he's one of the wealthiest, you know, one of the wealthiest groups in the world, decided to go in all in on boxing. What that money does is it allows the promoters to say, okay, well, what the hell? I'll put my guys in. If my guy loses, I'll bring him right back, and he'll fight for big money again. So the limit of money that was in the sport before made everybody do things that compromised the sport. Whether compromise the matchups because you didn't know if your guy was going to be able to hold that spot. The money solves a lot of the problems. We're going to see the great fights. We're going to see the best versus the best. We're going to see it often. It's a good time for ProBox TV to be in the boxing business.
Could we see a new golden age of boxing? When I tell people about boxing, when I grew up, everybody fought one another. Everybody lost. The Four Kings fought one another. Everybody took their losses. You know, the Bo Holyfield trilogies. You went in there again, and you didn't mind taking those L's. Could we see a new golden age because of this?
Absolutely. There's no reason why you can't. I mean, nobody knows. Nobody has a crystal ball. How far does he go? Can he monetize it? Can he make money? Does he care if he doesn't make money? So just a write-off and something to do that promotes Saudi Arabia? I don't know. Nobody knows that for sure. But you know, I can foresee a day where what you're saying is going to happen, and it's probably going to be called Live Boxing.
Now, a question I have for you. This card in August is stacked from top to bottom. It is a great card, not just a great main event, a great card from top to bottom that we're going to break down today. Do you think that's the future? Do you think that's a way to compete with other combat sports that have deeper cards?
100%. I mean, once boxing does that, boxing to me has always been, you know, the most entertaining sport. And it was in the 70s. And in the 70s, they made a decision to take it to HBO and closed circuit and pay-per-view, and other sports rose ahead of them. The NFL, the NBA, they rose and they did it on free TV. So in a way, that was a mistake, and it limited what they could do with the sport. Now, if they get back to putting on cards like that August 3rd, like, you're giving us 6 really good fights that are evenly matched, man, that changes the sport. You're turning the delivery of the content into something so much better than it was.
Does it turn boxing away from where it has been, let's say, the last, as you said it, 15, 20 years when it went to, pay sites that not everyone had? It became super niche. Does it become, again, a sport that the average American can watch on TV and grow up with the way we grew up with it?
That remains to be seen. Look, ProBox TV would like to see boxing be free again. And the way it was on ABC Wide World of Sports in the early 70s and the 60s when it was dominant. I don't know his plans. Live Golf is free. And he spends a lot of money on those guys. There is a monetization model for free, right? The NFL, NBA, all the major league sports around the world, most of them are ad-supported. So hopefully that's what's in the plan. And if that happens, then boxing will have a renaissance period where there'll be a tremendous amount of fans. If you made the product free and you had evenly matched action fights and really had no barrier to putting on the best fights, you'll see a golden era for boxing.
That's what we're all hoping for here at ProBox TV. Thank you so much for your time, Gary. Now, got to break down some X's and O's in a great main event when we come back.
Wednesday Night Fights. On the next Wednesday Night Fight, April 24th, Ramon Cardenas returns to defend his WBA regional title against the hard-hitting Eduardo Ramirez.
Welcome back. Can't wait to get ringside for that one in Plant City. It is going to be an absolute banger. Now, let's welcome in the experts. Paulie, Teddy, Chris, we know about the fight announcement. We know what's going on, right? Terence Crawford making his return to the ring against Madrimov. Now, Madrimov will be defending his title, but it's a WBA belt. The WBO saying, wait a second, this is also going to be an interim fight for our 154-pound title because our champ Fundora is out with a broken nose. Are you sensing a little shenanigans here? The WBO trying to kind of get some of that Saudi money. Paulie, what do you think, man?
Well, you know what? Politics are always going to play a hand in these kind of situations. You know, everybody wants to get their hand in the cookie jar, get a little bit of money, get a little bit of the pot. So you put an interim title in there so you can collect some sanctioning fees. Why not? I guess that's what WBO is feeling like, since Fundora is going to be out with the injury, and they want Crawford was the mandatory for Fundora, which I'm sure WBO expected to happen. So you get Madrimov in there. He's a WBA champion, not as well known as even Fundora. Fundora with the big pay-per-view win obviously has a lot of clout. Crawford, with being the top pound-for-pound fighter in the world, has a lot of clout. You get Madrimov. He's an Eastern European fighter, a little bit rough around the edges. He can give you a rough time. I don't know how much really Crawford has left at this age. He's looked phenomenal thus far. He hasn't looked like he lost a step, but at this age, you can always age overnight. And some guys show up in the ring and they look a little older. You consider that in the Madrimov fight. Otherwise, I think these are the things you're going to be considering going into this fight pretty much. It's one of those things where Madrimov's a new champion. He's going to be hungry. He's going to be out there to, want to create a bigger name for himself and start creating his legacy now that he's got a world title. And Crawford will be a huge name to have, a huge feather to have in his hat. But of course, I think if Madrimov is going to have a chance to beat Crawford, he's going to have to hope that Crawford probably has lost a few steps in the time since he fought Spence. And of course, the aging factor, being 36, 37 years old now.
All right, so Teddy Atlas, let me bring you in with your coaching expertise. How do you test, right? You have the young, hungry fighter, may have physical advantages. How do you test early on in a fight if Terence Crawford has aged a bit? How do you bring that out if Madrimov is your guy?
Well, you bring pressure, and you'd better do it behind the jab when you're fighting a top fighter, especially a guy like Crawford, who's the top of the heap. I mean, him and Inoue are the two best fighters pound for pound, and then there's a little bit of a gap. For me, Tank Davis, those other guys who are terrific, but they really separate themselves Inoue and Crawford. But you want to test to see, if the guy is slowed down a little bit and, he's getting older. You got to bring pressure. You got to go to the body. You're the bigger guy. Go to the smaller man's body. That's a natural way to go. and also with a guy who uses his legs, who's hard to hit. Go to the body, slow him down, bring pressure, but do it smart. Do it with feints. You better not just walk in, because you saw what happened to Spence when he tried to walk in. You know, it's like going into the sausage grinder. He's going to grind you up with counter punches. You know, Paulie and Chris both make the right points that right now, the only thing I see beating Crawford, it's not stepping up in weight right now. He's got the skeleton. He carries his power with him. That's a big deal. And he's a special guy, and he don't have a lot of miles on the odometer. I never judge a fighter's age chronologically. I always judge it by the amount of punches they've taken, how many tough fights they've been in. And when you look at it that way, he's still fresh. So I don't think that's going to, and they bring up the right thing, but I don't think that's going to be a problem. I'll tell you what the problem is going to be for Madrimov. It's going to be speed. I mean, it's going to be all the elements that this guy brings, that Crawford brings. I mean, he does everything. He's got good eyes. He's got good timing. He's so calm. He sees things other people don't see. He slows, like Michael Jordan did in basketball. He slows the game down. He slows the fight down. But I watch Madrimov. And he's a real experienced amateur guy. He's physically strong. He's technically solid. But he's also predictable. He'll control range. He'll step out once in a while, but he comes at you for the most part straight on. He uses physicality. He goes to the body, all of that. But his feet are too slow. His hands are too slow. Not just one, but both of them. That is going to conspire against him in Crawford as far as speed goes.
Oh, we don't just have a main event, we have a compelling card in boxing. Doesn't happen all the time. We'll break it down when we come back to Deep Waters.
Wednesday Night Fights. On the next Wednesday Night Fight, April 24th, Ramon Cardenas returns to defend his WBA regional title against the hard-hitting Eduardo Ramirez.
Welcome back to Deep Waters. That's right, we're bringing you a compelling card Wednesday. That isn't always the rule in boxing, but August 3rd, Turki Alalshikh bringing us a great card from LA that doesn't just have a main event, compelling all the way around. We knew they couldn't come to LA without appealing to La Raza, right? The Mexican fans want Mexican fighters. Well, that's what they're bringing. Isaac Pitbull Cruz. We have the Santa Cruz Mares, the continuation of their rivalry. Also, Andy Ruiz coming back? Where has he been? That is my question. Chris, let me start with you. Andy Ruiz, the big knock on him, inactivity. Hasn't been in the ring enough. You know the fans are going to howl for him, but time off, inconsistency. What does it mean to you?
I mean, listen, he's a super talented guy, and he's got a lot of experience. Obviously, he knocked out Anthony Joshua. He spent another 12 rounds with him in the rematch in which he lost. He showed up horribly overweight. And really underperformed in that rematch, but it doesn't matter, man. He's still super talented. He's got those fast hands. And it's funny, I'll tell you a quick story. When that Jarrell Miller fight fell through against Anthony Joshua, in came Andy Ruiz. I was in Vegas when this breaking news happened, and I remember doing an interview almost immediately. And the interviewer was almost joking about the fight as if Andy was this doughboy who couldn't fight. And I was like, no, absolutely. I mean, this is actually a more dangerous fight than Jarrell Miller. And looked at me like, really? I'm like, absolutely. Stylistically, if Andy can close the distance, his fast hands and power combined with his chin make him a very, very formidable guy for anyone in the division. And especially for a guy like Anthony Joshua, who likes to keep you on the end of that jab. He drops that power. The right hand power is really at the end of the punch when he's got full extension. If a guy like Andy Ruiz can get inside, he's got shorter arms and quick hands. Very, very dangerous puncher on the inside. So the talent is there for a guy like Andy Ruiz. So having him back, I think, is great because he's explosive. He scores knockouts. He throws punches when he's in shape. Hopefully he's in shape. Hopefully he's spent the time outside of the ring or outside of competition, staying in the gym, getting fit and working on his craft. Because if he does, he's still one of the most explosive and dangerous heavyweights in the world today.
Yeah, you just said it. Paulie, Chris said, I hope he's been doing the road work. I hope he's been in shape. I hope he isn't carrying too much weight. Where would you side on this? You want to hope your fighter's ready to go, or do you want to know they're ready to go? Do you think Andy Ruiz will be ready to go come August?
I mean, considering a layoff, you always got to get back in there. And there's always a question about long layoffs. Guys don't typically have great performances coming off of a long layoffs. But then again, Jarrell Miller himself is not coming off a long layoff, but he's not coming off an exactly stupendous performance himself and getting beaten by Daniel Dubois over in Saudi Arabia. So I think the question marks will be, can Jarrell overcome the negative setback, especially, now with the PED microscope on him more thoroughly. A guy who had been such a big, physically big heavyweight and had shown such a tremendous stamina. You were questioning, how does a guy this big throw this many punches? All of a sudden against Dubois couldn't do it. Now you're questioning, is he going to be able to be of this level if he's not doping up, if that doping is being managed or cut out altogether. And with Andy Ruiz, the question marks are, after the long layoff, Jam Chris just said it, has he been in the gym? We already saw as soon as he had some success against Joshua, he was out partying. He showed up way overweight in the rematch and showed up laid a complete egg, a total dud in a fight that I thought he had a really good chance of winning in the rematch as well, considering how apprehensive Joshua fought the rematch. But that's the thing now. We're analysts. I said this yesterday when we were talking about the fight over the past weekend. We're analysts. We're not psychics. I don't know what Andy Ruiz is doing day in and day out, but I'm sure he had to know that eventually there was going to be a fight that was going to come his way. I know through the grapevine that he's been offered some fights from other promoters or whatnot. He's turned them down. So I assume he's been somewhat in the gym if he's being offered fights in the meantime. But between now and August, you do have some time. There is a training camp. There is enough time for a training camp. But nonetheless, long layoffs create a little bit of rust.
Teddy, when it comes to your training expertise, we've seen it a million times. Fighters like Riddick Bowe, Buster Douglas, Mike Tyson, to some degree, victims of their own success. Paulie pointed out, you get a big win, you get some millions, you start partying, and everything kind of goes downhill. How do you prevent that? How do you bounce back from that as a trainer of a heavyweight who can still be top flight?
You tell him to look at his bank account. That doesn't look as healthy as it did before. That's one way. He made a lot of money, as both champions said. It went to his head, maybe it went to his belly a little bit, obviously. And Ruiz, you saw the posts, you saw the videos, with the cars and everything else. Everything except being in the gym. And you gotta, obviously when you're buying those kind of things and you're spending money and you're freewheeling with money that way, you don't need Teddy Atlas or you don't need the Mason Kreskin to figure out that, he might not have all that money left. So you say, hey, call up your accountant. Oh, he don't work for you no more. Okay, well, all right, I get it. Look at your bank account. It's not too healthy. You had a chance to capitalize. Not everyone gets a second chance in life. You're getting another chance. You're getting another chance. Do you want to get back to where you want and this time actually stay there? Yes, I do. Okay, that's where you start from that. As far as, it's the natural way to start. If he doesn't have incentive to better his life after he's already, been down that road where he's blown it all, then there's, then you're never going to be able to get through to a guy if he doesn't understand that. My concern in this fight, though, really is different. Miller is a guy who took such a beating in his last fight with Dubois. Wow. He took such a beating that unless Ruiz is really, really a shadow, I don't see how Miller. I'd be concerned about Miller getting back in the ring now because he took that, especially with this high level of a fighter. He took such a beating. And the last thing I'll say is, it's funny that we're talking about, rightfully so. We're talking about Ruiz, his habits, his weight, all those things. Last I checked, Miller was over 300 pounds in Saudi Arabia. That wasn't really good, So it's an interesting fight. Both guys really have the incentive. I mean, you talk about, God, I almost don't want to use this phrase because it sounds like I'm being facetious, but both guys have to be hungry because how can you not be? We just explained Ruiz. Well, Miller was the guy who originally blew the $5 million to fight Joshua, and what just happened? He got paid in Saudi Arabia. We don't know how much, but we know that his truck got confiscated. What's the word for that?
Repossessed.
Yeah, repossessed his truck. Thank you, Paulie. His truck. I haven't had a truck repossessed. Not lately. But and hopefully I won't. But And I'm not trying to make fun of the guy, but you talk about hungry. If you get your truck repossessed and you got an opportunity now, again, off of a very bad loss to make it up, to get back to where you can make money, you don't need to tell the guy anything. All you need to do is say, hey, here's your chance.
Well, someone who has made the most of their chances, of course, the golden boy, Oscar De La Hoya, his fighter taking on Tim Tszyu. That's right, Virgil Ortiz, same card, but he had some words about defending his home turf. We'll get to it right now on Deep Waters. Welcome back to Deep Waters. Oscar De La Hoya had some choice words on X about Turki Alalshikh coming to Los Angeles. Nobody, I mean nobody, is coming to my country and or city and think they can take over boxing. I'm a fighter first, and I will fight hard for what I love the most, and that's boxing. Viva. Gentlemen, what do you think? Paulie, kind of strong words here.
Yeah, strong words. I mean, Oscar a lot of times has been beefing with his rival promoters. Right now, I think he's feeling himself. He's got the big Ryan Garcia win over the past weekend. He's got Munguia, who's on some momentum, about to fight Canelo. His company is, in a positive mood right now, and he's feeling he can take on the whole world. I don't know if he's directing this towards Eddie Hearn, towards Turki Alalshikh, or if he's just being territorial because he's, like I said, he's feeling himself after the big win over the weekend. But yeah, I mean, we might get Virgil on that card against Tim Tszyu. In that regard, I guess he's going to be part of it anyway.
Yeah, Paulie, I agree. I'm not sure where he's actually directing this, whether it's at Turki Alalshikh himself or at Eddie Hearn, who he has beef with in the past, or if he's looking at them as a unit now because they are working together. But regardless, I think that it's just Oscar being Oscar, like you said, in terms of coming off the tail end of a huge upset victory over the weekend of Ryan Garcia defeating Devin Haney. But yeah, I mean, I would think it was probably a good idea to work with the Prince, because there's going to be a lot of opportunities for his fighters. Like you said, Victor Ortiz is a fantastic fighter and someone in his stable. And
Virgil Ortiz.
Virgil Ortiz, excuse me, not Victor Ortiz. I'm throwing myself back now. Yeah, Virgil Ortiz, who's an excellent fighter, a guy that needs to get busy and get paid. So I don't know why you got to burn, these bridges before they're even crossed. But I think that this is just Oscar, like he said, being a fighter, having that fighter mentality, initial thoughts. But in the long run, I would assume that he's eventually going to work with the Prince as well to get his fighters the best opportunities.
Oscar sounds like the guy who got turned down by the pretty girl at the prom. You know what I mean? I mean,
which has never happened to Oscar, by the way.
No, that's true. He ain't used to that. That's why he's upset, Chris. This has never happened to him before. He was not invited to the dance. Actually, this goes back a couple months. There is a reason for this. Something happened. I think that there's a history here where, he thought that he could push around a little bit, or I'm not going to say bully, but that he could play a game with Turki Alalshikh and, do some of that stuff. And he found out really fast that he couldn't. So I think this is him reacting to not being invited to the party.
There's always a bigger bully. There's always somebody with more money. There's always somebody with more power. We'll see who it is in boxing in the next few months. Thank you to the panel. You guys have been outstanding. Thank you to the fans, and we'll see you at the fights. That's right. Tomorrow night, ProBox TV is live. Don't miss it. We'll see you then.